In 1899, there were no child labor laws, endless hours, subhuman conditions. It was an awful life, and if you were an orphan, even worse. The National Child Labor Committee hired a photographer to document child workers in factories, farms, and on the streets of New York, where 10,000 newsies aged 6 to late teens lived. Many were homeless, all were dirt poor. Newsies had it hard. Every morning, they'd buy bundles of papers, 50 cents per 100, and spend the day hawking headlines, selling them for a penny apiece. If they were lucky, they'd make enough for a bed and a boarding house, a piece of bread, and still have enough for more papers the next day. But if they couldn't make enough for a bed, they'd sleep on the streets. Some newsies knew their city and the best places to sell, including bars. The drunks tipped generously, and bartenders sold shots to those as young as 6. Sold papers were not refunded, so they had to be clever. Headlines, weather, time of day of week, all helped them decide how many to buy each morning. Then they'd do whatever they had to sell them. Some even jumped on moving trolleys to sell up and down the aisle, but if they missed, they could lose an arm or leg. But wooden limbs were scorned. Newsies knew a missing limb would get more sympathy buys. The headline was boring. The newsies didn't care. Any mention of the White House would become a scandal in their cries. The more war, mayhem, and murder they could paint, the more papers they sold. During the Spanish-American War in 1899, actual dramatic headlines made sales explode. Owners Hearst and Pulitzer raised their newsies' cost to 60 cents per 100. But after the war, sales tanked, and they refused to lower the price. In July, hungry, fed-up newsboys organized a strike, which exploded from 30 newsboys to 5,000. They hung out on street corners singing and giving speeches. Over 3 brutally hot summer days, they marched over the Brooklyn Bridge, stopping traffic. Newsboys that kept selling papers were called scabs. "There must be no half measures, my men," said Jack Kelly. "If you sees anyone selling de oil to the journal, swat 'em." Fights broke out. Strikers almost always won, with torn papers littering the street. The newsies left one group of scabs alone, newsgirls. "We can't help it," they said. "We ain't fighting women." Pulitzer and Hearst sent thugs to bust heads, but boys kept up the fight no matter how many were injured or arrested. The climax was a huge rally at Irving Hall. "Hold out, me gallant kid," said Spot Conlon. "Tomorrow I myself at the head of 3,000 noble hearts from Brooklyn will be here to help you win your scrap." One article read, 5,000 strikers swarm Irving Hall. No more violence, their leaders cry, and a voice responds, "Oh, certainly not." The call went out from Bronx, Manhattan, Jersey, Brooklyn, and the Battery. By 8 p.m., the mob had charged the door, and 15 policemen were helpless. Brooklyn brought a floral horseshoe for the newsie with the best speech. Roars of applause brought lively punching among the little fellows, while larger boys banged a few heads together. Hungry Joe sang a song about a one-legged newsboy, and Kid Blink announced a parade for the morning. Boys left yelling like demons, but in the end, the parade had to be given up because Pete Devery refused to issue a appointment.